Hey everyone, welcome to my review of the CaseLabs Magnum TH10. Now this case, like all the other cases designed by CaseLabs so far, is designed specifically for high-end hardware and water cooling. This case is absolutely massive. It's more than double the size of a normal full tower case. It has 10 expansion slots and fits all motherboard form factors but right up to HPTX. Stock standard, this case fits 4 quad radiators, 2 on either side, 1 in the roof, 1 in the floor. But one of the amazing things about the design of these CaseLabs cases is that they are modular to some extent. So there's a lot of accessories that you can buy for them, and there's a lot of customization that can be done. So I'll be taking you through how the case comes by default, the accessories that I myself purchased for the case, as well as some of the other accessories that are available. This case has a full aluminium construction. The inner panels are 2.3 millimeters and the outer panels are 1.6 millimeters. You can get the case and accessories in complete black or complete white. So you'll notice that I've started installing a system into the case. I've got some stickers on the front of the case, a fan controller and switch panel. I've installed a power supply, the back I/O panel, and also a 480mm radiator in the roof. I just thought I'd mention this so that you know that none of these things come included with the case. Looking at the front panel of the case, there's a ventilated area which extends right up the front of the case on the right hand side, and on the left hand side you can see 4 5.25 inch bays at the top, and then another ventilated area which extends from there to the bottom of the case. This ventilated area on the left hand side is actually an extra accessory which I purchased separately for a triple 120mm radiator. This case can potentially fit 5.25 inch devices on the left hand side from the top to the bottom. It comes by default with 4 5.25 inch bay covers and then 3 larger triple 5.25 inch bay covers on the bottom ventilated part, which look like this. So just a close look at the power and reset button. They're Lambtron Vandal switches, I believe. The top one, the power button, has a blue ring LED, and the bottom one, the reset button, and also the hard drive activity LED, has a red LED. Now the front panel of the case, as well as the top panel of the case, can actually be removed, and they pop off quite easily. It's a toolless design. So I'm just going to give you a look at the top panel, and then I'll remove the top panel and the front panel for you to have a look at what's underneath. Okay, the front panel has been removed, and this gives you access to all the screws so that you are able to undo the 5.25 inch bay devices, bay covers, and also install any accessories that you want to. So yeah, the accessory that I have here, as I mentioned, is for a triple 120mm radiator. The fans go in the front, the radiator on the inside. I'll give you a look at that shortly from the inside of the case. But you can also get hard drive bays that fit on the left hand side here. Each fits 4 hard drives and a 120mm fan in the front. So you'd be able to get 3 of those, actually 4 of those down the left hand side, which means 16 hard drives on the left. You can also get another 16 hard drives on the right hand side, because by default the case comes with one 4-bay hard drive bay which fits on the right hand side. So you can see you can undo the, because on the inside here is hard drive bays, so you can install 120mm fans on the right hand side here, They mount straight on there, or you can install the hard drive bays, and they also fit a 120mm fan in front of them. So there's a lot to cover here. I know it's a little bit complicated and difficult for me to explain. There's the mechanism that holds the front panel on, so one on each corner, same on the top panel. You can actually also choose a different switch panel that comes with front panel USB and front panel audio, and it's very easy to change out these switches as well. Now just looking at the top panel, so by default you get you get covers in the roof. They're just panels that fit into the roof and they screw on, so they're very easy to remove. They're just the 1.6mm aluminium. So I've installed a 480mm radiator on this side just so that you can see how a radiator mounts into the roof of the case. So it's actually a Black Ice SR1. So, you know, all over this case you have a whole bunch of different options, different configurations and customizations. Okay, I'm just giving you a look at the inside of the front panel here. I really like the ventilation design on this case. It's good to see something different from the normal honeycomb design. And just to look at these pop into the mechanisms on the case to hold the panels in place. So these are on the front panel and the top panel. And just a bit of a better look at the outside of the top panel. So massive ventilated area to allow for the ventilation from the inside of the case through the roof. And I'll just turn the top panel over so that you can have a look at the inside of it. You can see that the edges are turned up and over to hide the inside of the roof of the case, as well as to give the top panel extra strength. So you can actually also get different top panels for this case. This is the top panel that comes by default, and it's the smallest, lowest top panel. But you can also get a 65mm and an 85mm high top panel. This allows for different configurations with the radiators and fans. So I'm not sure which comes by default, but you can choose between casters and just normal rubber mounts to sit the case on. I chose the casters because by the time I finish building a water cooling system into this case, it's going to be extremely heavy. And yeah, I want at least something to help me to move this case around. Now looking at one of the side panels of the case. So there's a number of different side panel choices. You can get a windowed side panel, a solid side panel, or a ventilated side panel. On some of the other cases there's also different sized windows that you can choose from. You can see that the window extends over the entire motherboard tray. The side panel also has this handle in it for opening the case. Now looking at the back side panel of the case, you also have the same side panel options for this panel. Now looking at the back panel of the case. So at the top you can see cutouts for water cooling tubing. This might seem unnecessary because of the size of this case, the amount of space inside for water cooling components, but CaseLabs thinks of and includes absolutely everything so that you've got every option available. So moving down the left hand side you can see the power supply mounts. So this case fits up to 2 power supplies. So by default it comes with one blank out panel in case you only want to install one power supply. Now as you can see, this case has a removable motherboard tray, and this is one of the really exciting features of this case. So it's just a matter of removing the 4 thumb screws and the motherboard tray can be removed. It also comes with a handle to help you remove the motherboard tray. Now looking at the 10 expansion slots, there's a ventilated area next to them, and the case fits a 120mm fan in the back. I've already installed a back I/O panel, as you can see. Okay, another very cool feature of this case is the way the side panels are attached. They're actually on hinges. So I'll just give you a close look at these hinges. Not only is it on hinges, but all you have to do to completely remove the side panel is lift it up about 10mm and you can lift it straight off the hinges. So the side panels open up to about 180 degrees. And just looking at the inside of the side panel window, so it's bolted on, it's very easy to remove. I actually had to remove the window to remove the protective plastic. So you can see there's another panel bolted on here, and this is just for more rigidity, I guess, at the end of the panel where you need it, and also where the handle is. And just a close look at the inside of the handle. So the side panels are held shut using the same technique as the top panel and the front panel. So that just fits into this mechanism here. Okay, now for a look at the inside of the case. So as I mentioned before, I already have a quad radiator installed in the top of the case, and I've also installed the fans onto that radiator, and I've just got all the wires hanging down messily through the back temporarily. So this case fits right up to HPTX motherboards, and it has 10 expansion slots. So I'll just give you a look at the back panel. So ventilation next to the expansion slots, and as I mentioned previously, a 120mm fan on the back. And I'll just give you a look up at those cutouts for the water cooling tubing. Now, I actually got an accessory with the case to make these smaller, because obviously they're too big for most tubing, so I'll just quickly show you that accessory. So there it is there. So there's 4 of those included. About the right size for 1/2-inch tubing to fit through it nicely. So you can see it's nice and thick to prevent damage to the tubing. So I'll have to show you what the inside of the roof looks like when we're looking at the other side of the case, thanks to this radiator being in the way. But you can see all of the cutouts, none of those are covered, and you can see the incredible amount of space there is above the motherboard to install any radiator fan configuration that you can think of. I mean, a push-pull configuration on the largest radiator would fit in this case. Even a push-pull configuration using extra thick fans like 38mm fans, or even those Feza Treework fans, would fit. It's just incredible. So there's another cutout back there. So I'll just go around and show you all of the cutouts and their positions. There's also a cutout at the front just here. It's partially covered by this accessory that I have in the front. So yeah, plenty of cutouts for both tubing and wiring, because you will need to, in a high-end water cooling system in this case, you will need to run tubing from this side of the case into the other side of the case, because radiators fit in both sides. So looking at the motherboard tray, I know I'm doing things not in the order that I normally would, but yeah, this is a bit of a out of the ordinary case. So yeah, you can see the amount of standoffs. All the standoffs are in there, so it shows you all the different form factors that fit into the case. Basically there's standoff positions for all the form factors. Not that you want to put anything less than ATX in here, but you never know. And you can see here the large cutout, the large CPU cooler cutout, you know, for accessing backplates. And there's actually a plate behind it. Now this plate behind it is a plate that bolts onto the back, or screws onto the back of the motherboard tray. And it's specifically for if you're not going to be using a HPTX motherboard, you know, that comes all the way out to here and covers up the entire motherboard tray. You know, that would also then cover up the CPU cooler cutout. But if you're only using an ATX or even an extended ATX motherboard, that only comes to here. So then you have this ugly hole just here through into the back, and that is what that back plate on the motherboard tray is covering. But it's covering, yeah, the hole that you would get when running anything but a HPTX motherboard. So it's just another little extra that's been included in this extremely well thought out design. So I'll just try to give you a close look at the rails. It might be better to take a look from the other side. You can see the quality of that paint job there. It's amazing. So normally I'd pull the motherboard tray out, but I'm actually doing a massive build log on the build that I'm installing into this case. And you're going to be seeing a lot of this case and all of its, you know, functionality and the accessories and everything. So you can check out the build log to see that. Because yeah, I'll actually be pulling the motherboard tray out to install the motherboard onto it, half the build onto it, because yeah, that's what it's designed for. So you'll get to see all of that in the build log. Now moving on to the front of the case and the 5.25 inch bays. Now I've already installed two devices. I've got the switch panel up there and also a fan controller. Those 5.25 inch bay mounts don't actually stay up there in position. When I had the front panel off, you could see the screws at the front that you can access to undo these 5.25 inch bay devices. Well, when you undo the device, you're actually not removing the device, you're removing the panels, like the complete, these panels here, you're taking the whole thing out. So you might be wondering, how do you access the screws on this side? Well, that's how. The entire panel comes out, these panels come out completely, and here they are here. So you install the panels onto the side of the device before you install the device, and then you screw it in from the front, you know, first removing the front panel to get access. So there's two different types of these available for the 5.25 inch bays. There's a shorter one for, you know, fan controllers and switch panels, short devices, and then there's the longer one for optical drives. And also you can see the little hole, I mean, that's where it screws on, but there's another hole at the top there. And that hole is for lining things up, setting it into position before you do up the screws. So you can see just there, that bar sticking out, that goes through that hole to line it up and hold it in position so that nothing is crooked. So that's how the 5.25 inch bays work, and you can install 5.25 inch devices all the way down the front of the case, as I mentioned. Also the hard drives, as I mentioned. And now looking at the accessory that I have installed in the front of the case for a 360mm radiator. So you can see it has ventilation in the front. You can fit the fans in the front part and bolt the radiator onto the back. Yeah, I think that's everything. I'll just take a look at this material here. Extremely high quality hard rubber material to protect your tubing and wiring. Now looking at the bottom panel of the case. So as I've mentioned, you can install a 480mm radiator in the floor of the case on both sides. And I just left this panel in here to show you how the case comes by default. So this is the same as in the roof of the case. You've just got these panels which unscrew very easily from the bottom, and you can remove them to install the radiator. Either that, or you can just put fans. That's what it looks like. A bit different to the top. You know, these cutouts are round, whereas the top, if you remember, like the entire thing was cut out square, and just the mounting areas were left behind. So I guess the reason why they've done that is to give the floor some more rigidity. Okay, now looking in the back side of the case. So I'll start by having a look at the hard drive cages. Each fits 4 hard drives, and these are one of the 2 types of hard drive cages for this case. One type fits on the other side in the 5.25 inch base, and then there's this type that fits on this side of the case, which is the one that you get by default. And you get one of these by default. They can be installed in any one of the 4 positions down the left hand side of the case, and a 120mm fan fits in the front of each of the cages. You can see the cutouts in the cages for ventilation. You can see there the same bars that are used for the 5.25 inch base, and the hard drive cages use these as well to line them up and hold them into position so that you can screw them in place. And there's actually rubber grommets on the front of the hard drive bays that fit over these. So the unused areas on this side of the case, on the front panel, can be covered up using panels just like this, and you get 4 of these by default with the case, so you can cover up the entire front panel if you want to. Now looking at the floor of the case. Now in the floor I've actually installed another accessory. You can see that this floor is different to the floor on the other side of the case, and that is because I haven't used the normal plates. I've actually used an accessory that lifts the floor up about 5mm and strengthens the floor. So therefore, the purpose of strengthening the floor so that you can install heavy components like maybe pumps and a reservoir, things like that on top of them. And well, the reason that I got them is so that I can drill holes in them and not have to drill holes in the case and then mount like the pumps onto them. That's what I was planning on doing, because I'm using 2 fairly big pumps. And if you remember, on the other side of the case you've got the circles in the bottom of the case, and when drilling holes in the, you could drill holes in the other panels that go on the bottom of the case, but then you'd run into trouble with the circles in the bottom of the case with the actual case panel. And these, being 5mm high, allow you to drill holes wherever you want in the panel. You know, take it out, take it away, drill a hole in it and bring it back, and not have trouble running into the other panel of the case, the actual bottom panel. So a good accessory to have for that type of thing. And I'll just give you a look around at where the cutouts are now. And you can see the rails just there. Actually, I'll just give you a look at that. The bottom rail that the motherboard tray slides out on. So back to looking at the cutouts. And you can see all these for cable management. There is absolutely heaps of them, and they're all in the perfect spots. You know, good positions where you're actually going to be able to use them. There's even more of them behind the hard drive cages for taking the front panel cables down. So yeah, I'll give you a better look at that once I get the hard drive cages out to install the hard drives in the build log. And this is that plate that I was talking about, this panel that I was talking about on the back of the motherboard to cover up the CPU cooler cutout hole. So it's held on by, I think it's 5 screws, 1 in each corner, 1 in the middle. So just looking at the top rail of the motherboard tray. Just to look at those water cooling tubing cutouts, and to look at the power supply mounting area. So the top one's free, as you can see. And yet another accessory. I haven't installed it in the top position, but I have installed it in the bottom position where I've mounted the power supply. It's actually it's to strengthen and support long power supplies like this one. So you can see the bottom of it just here, and I'll just try and get underneath there. You can see that panel there, and it goes up the other side here. I'll just move the light a little bit so you can see it. So yeah, there it is there, just to give more, and it bolts to the back of the case to give more strength to the power supply mount. So the power supply rests on the bottom. So I'll just show you what that accessory looks like now. Okay, that's the accessory just there, and it just bolts onto the back of the case. And I'll also show you how it bolts on, because you might think that the screws that hold the power supply on have to go through this as well, but they actually don't. This mounts separately. So you can see it mounts separately just here and there. Okay, so I already mentioned that I chose the solid side panel for the rear side panel, but I did talk about the fact that there's a ventilated option, and it has ventilated areas that go right across the side panel from one side to the other. Well, those ventilated areas are about as wide as a 140mm fan. And what CaseLabs has gone and done is design another accessory that bolts on here and goes right across to the other side and bolts on the other side. And you can actually fit a 560mm radiator all the way across the side of the case if you get the ventilated side panel on both sides. And then when you shut the case side panels, you line it up so that the ventilation is right in line with the radiator. So it also allows for different configurations, different system designs, which more options, the more the better. So absolutely excellent to see things like that. And finally, a look inside the roof of the case. So you can see those panels, which can easily be removed by undoing a few screws so that you can install radiators or fans in there. And that's about it. Time to move on to the conclusion. Okay, I'm recording this conclusion a fair bit later, and as you can see, I've got a system up and running in this case now. For full details on this system, check out the Singularity Beast 2 build log on my channel. I'll put a link on the screen. In the build log, you'll get to see a lot more of the case and what it's really capable of. So I have a lot of good things to say about the case, but I'm not going to say a whole lot more because, yeah, you'll get all the details in the build log. This case is just incredible. It's a water coolers and high-end hardware enthusiast's dream. There's pretty much nothing that you can't fit into this case. You can fit enough radiators to cool pretty much anything. It's the case that I chose for my primary system, and there's a lot of reasons that I chose this case. I was astounded by the quality of the materials, the paint job, the design, everything about it is just perfect. I really can't pick any faults. I've had this case for over a month now. I've built a system into it. I've had the system up and running for a couple of weeks, and yeah, I've really been enjoying this case. It was a breeze to build into as well. Because it's so big, there's no problems getting your hands in, fitting parts in. Building a water cooling system is extremely difficult in a cramped case, and when you come to maintain it, dust clean it, drain it, it just makes it so difficult if you have a case that's too small and cramped. So with a case like this, it just makes everything about building a system that much easier. And also upgrading, maintaining the system, It's an incredible case. It comes highly recommended from me. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like and favourite if you want to see more. Thanks everyone.